You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Hey yo soldier, welcome back to Reliving the War and welcome to November 13th, 2000. This week Raw's in Columbus, Ohio, while Nitro's in London, England. Yeah, a pretty special episode of Nitro right here. The first time WCW's flagship show emanates from the United Kingdom. Would have been nice about 3 years ago, but yeah, what can you do? Survivor Series 2000's coming later in the week. Rock vs Rikishi, Austin vs Triple H. Some good matches are lined up for that show and it's looking good on paper. Let's get stuck right in this week and get the ball rolling with Crash Holly vs Kurt Angle on Raw and a Ric Flair promo on Nitro. Happy to have you here as always, and I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Reliving the War. Oh yeah, one last thing. YouTube's brought in this new thing where you can hype videos. It's meant to get them more noticed or something. I don't know how it works, but if you could do that for me and we'll give it a test run and see what happens, I'd be really, really grateful. So thanks very much guys. On with the show. The superstars of WCW surround the ring as Nitro gets underway. There's a good crowd here in the London arena, a crowd of fans starved of live pro wrestling, so no matter what WCW books tonight, the audience are going to eat it up. Out comes the slickest of Ricks. He says WCW is the greatest wrestling company in the world today, which is a lie. He says it's a privilege to be here tonight, probably another lie. And Flair reminds Mike Sanders that he has the ability to override his decisions at any time, and Flair tells Above Average that he must make a decision regarding the Cruiserweight title within 48 hours. He can either defend his belt or he can give it up, I guess. Flair then announces the first ever London Leathal Lottery. 8 great WCW stars have been picked at random. These 8 wrestlers become 4 teams. The 4 teams then face off in a mini tournament. The winning team will then go on to Thunder to face each other in a singles match, and the winner gets a shot at the WCW Championship. No Battle Bowl at all, ladies and gents. The winner gets his shot the night after WCW Mayhem, and Rick then announces the random teams. Team 1 is Mike Awesome and Bam Bam Bigelow. Team number 2 is Booker T. Yes, the world champion is in the Leathal Lottery, and he's teaming up with the total package Lex Luger. Team 3 is Disco Inferno and Alex Wright. Random drawings, my hole. And Team 4 is Scotty Steiner and Sting, meaning there's a very high chance that the WCW champion after Mayhem could end up becoming the number 1 contender by winning the London Leathal Lottery. Scotty Steiner arrived late. He went for Ric Flair, but Booker T intercepted him. This leads to a wild brawl breaking out and the crowd goes nuts. Here's the matches then. It's going to be Bigelow and Awesome taking on Steiner and Sting. Booker T and Luger are going to face the Boogie Knights. Yes, they spelled Knights wrong. Jim Ross lets us know on Raw that The Undertaker is going to face Kurt Angle this Sunday at Survivor Series. Taker won a fatal 4-way match to get this title opportunity. Kurt says he's the most fightingest champion in WWF history, and fightingest is a word. He's proven this by facing The Undertaker at Survivor Series, and this week Kurt's going to prove that The Undertaker is everything he says he is. He's bad, and he's an ass. To prove he's a fighting champion, Kurt's going to defend his title right now on Raw. Angle wants Undertaker to take notes, and out comes Crash Holly with one arm tied behind his back. You see, Crash said he could beat Angle with one arm tied behind his back on heat, so Kurt's going to take full advantage of Crash's silly statement. As Kurt lays it into young Elroy, Jim Ross announces that Triple H and Rikishi aren't scheduled for Raw tonight. Hunter's got a bad back, Rikishi's got a broken nose, and right now Crash is breaking his promise by untying himself, which leads to a quick flurry of offense. This gets stopped, however, with a Kurt Angle German suplex. Crash takes a regular suplex, he takes a power slam. Angle then accidentally hits Molly Holly off the apron, and this allows Crash to hit a DDT, but Crash can't put the champ away. It ends with Angle performing a pretty unique fireman's carry, and Angle then applies an ankle lock. Crash can't get out, so he ends up submitting, but Kurt won't let go of the hold after the bell. When Kurt finally lets go of the ankle lock, he grabs a chair and Crash takes a shot across the back. So here comes hardcore bombastic bastard Bobby Holly to save the day. Holly's back after Angle broke his arm a few months ago. Edge and Christian come out to help Angle. The Undertaker comes out to help the Holy Cousins. Yeah, never thought I'd say that line. And after the Phenom clears out the ring, Angle punches him in the face and Undertaker seems to like it. Kurt runs away before the Undertaker can retaliate. He, Edge and Christian cry to Commissioner Foley, and Christian explains what just happened by using Foley's shirt.
Interference! Interference! Oh my God, interference!
Foley saw what happened. The Commissioner's no fool, so he books Edge, Christian and Kurt Angle against the Holy Cousins and the Undertaker for tonight's Raw. The fans in London were treated to a hardcore championship match on Nitro, champion Crowbar versus Big Vito. This one came about because Vito helped Crowbar win the title on Thunder. The best spot of the match was probably this table bump in the backstage area, but this one ended when Reno showed up to attack Vito in the ring. Crowbar then suplexed Vito through a table, and that's all she wrote. Nothing special here, unfortunately. Lance Storm told Mike Sanders he wanted to face General Rection tonight. He didn't want to wait until Mayhem, and Sanders granted Lance's wish. Mike also got Scotty Steiner to sign up for some anger management classes, which is an achievement in itself, but Scott doesn't really care. He's more annoyed that he's teaming up with Sting in the London Leathal Lottery. Next on Raw, it's a hardcore tag match. Steve Blackman and Dojo student Chris Jericho versus Test and Kane. Nitro presents a Natural Born Thrillers promo. The reason why Test has to team up with Kane tonight is because he lost the coin toss against his tag team partner Albert, and Jericho has to team up with Blackman so he can get a little closer to greatness. To impress Sensei Blackman, Jericho went right after Kane during the Big Red Machine's entrance, but of course Blackman had to save his student. Test doesn't seem to be in any rush to help out as Kane tries to fight both guys off inside the ring, but he does eventually show up with a little road sign and Blackman legitimately disarms Test and he bops him on the head for good measure. What a guy. Because he saw a deadly intergalactic life form in the audience, Blackman got distracted and Test hits him with a big boot. This also gives Jericho the opportunity to really prove himself to Master Steve. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen and Blackman once again has to save Chris, so Jericho's now on his last warning. One more mess up and he's out of the dojo. Blackman grabs his Eskrima sticks, he chops Test down and Test takes a back suplex. Kane breaks up the cover and Jericho comes in to wipe him out with a trash can. And when Kane goes for a chokeslam, Jericho takes a trash can lid away from Test and Kane takes another shot. Test then accidentally hits Kane. Jericho wins the match after performing a lion salt. So Jericho remains a member of the Mavug Dojo, but he's still on his final warning. For now though, the young grasshopper did well. Kane takes it out on Test. The Big Red Machine chokeslams his partner, which was totally deserved, may I add. On Nitro, the Natural Born Thrillers come to the ring and Shawn Stasiak's here. This means the Thrillers as a whole set Kevin Nash up last week, and this means the Thrillers no longer have nor need their coach. Sanders calls Nash a master manipulator, a bully who tries to get his own way, but last week Kevin Nash hit a roadblock. It's Kevin Nash who found himself SOL, so as mentioned last week folks, we're back to Kevin Nash being a babyface. I'm going to put a video together featuring all of Kevin Nash's heel and babyface turns because he's had a lot of them. Stasiak says Kevin Nash fell victim to evolution and he shouldn't be ashamed. But here comes Big Sexy to a great reaction and Kev says, judging by the pop, that he's far from being extinct. Kev taught the Thrillers a lot of things. He taught them to finish what they started, but they didn't finish Kevin Nash. So Mike says the Thrillers are going to finish it tonight. It's going to be Palumbo, O'Hare and Stasiak in a four corners match against Big Kev. And Nash agrees to this match. Nash knows every one of the Natural Born Thrillers are going to get involved, but he doesn't care. He just wants to get his hands on Shawn Stasiak. Next on Raw, we're going to hear from the Radicalz while Nitro presents their first Leathal Lottery match. On SmackDown this past week, the Radicalz came to the aid of Triple H and Rikishi, so our commentators wonder why they're backing these guys up. Benoit says there was a time when he didn't get along with Triple H, but after being in the ring with the game, Benoit realised Hunter would do anything and everything to get ahead. That's a man who Benoit can now respect. Benoit and everyone in the ring right now knows that it takes more than being a good wrestler to make it in the WWF, so the Radicalz have been reformed and their plan is to now team up with Triple H. Rock and Austin are now outnumbered and outclassed. If anyone doesn't like it, they're more than welcome to get in the ring and prove the Radicalz wrong. Eddie Guerrero says he and Triple H have something in common. They were both smart enough to kick Chyna to the curb. Chyna and Billy Gunn better be smart enough to stay away from the Radicalz, and that's all Eddie has to say. Dean Malenko tries to speak, but he gets interrupted by Commissioner Foley. Foley remembers that the Radicalz backstabbed him back in January. He imitates Triple H when he says he never saw it coming. Back then there was nothing Mick could do about it, but now Foley's the commissioner and he can get a little payback by booking a match. The Radicalz are going to take on Billy Gunn, Chyna, The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin in our Raw main event. On Nitro, there's some dissension between Mike Awesome and Bam Bam Bigelow, while Sting isn't so keen on teaming up with Scotty Steiner. Sting wants Scott to get his head in the game and think about how good it would be for Scott to secure a little insurance policy for himself after Mayhem, while Sting himself wants to get back in the title picture by winning the Leathal Lottery. So, did Sting and Big Papa Pump get along? Well, at first they did. They were pretty focused and they worked together to clear out the ring. Then, out of nowhere, Sting attacks Steiner. This makes absolutely no sense after what Sting said in his pre-match promo, and it seemed like Sting was the one thinking ahead for the greater good. Still, the boys got attacked by Bam Bam and Awesome, and when push came to shove, Steiner and Sting did indeed work together again. Awesome tried an overhead belly-to-belly that didn't look too great. The Stinger tags out and Scotty fights off both opponents before putting Mike down with an exploder. Awesome gets a chance to deliver his top rope splash, but Sting stops it, and this allows Scott to pull off a top rope exploder that looked pretty damn good. Awesome gives it up after getting put in the Steiner recliner, so Steiner and Sting progress to the Leathal Lottery finals. After the bell, Bam Bam's so mad that he gives Awesome some greetings from Asbury Park. I'm really not surprised. Backstage, Kane's beating the hell out of Chris Jericho. Chris is getting in no offense at all and he ends up getting put through a glass window. Great looking bump, but this is Jericho's final strike. He's now out of the dojo and Sensei Blackman has been embarrassed. Taz and Raven took on the Dudleys in our next Raw match and the smoke from Taz's pyro got completely out of control. The ring got difficult to see for fans in attendance, so the audience sat there a bit miffed and a bit confused. Still, they chanted "We want tables" and the smoke cleared up as the Dudleys pulled off their double team headbutt. Though when Bubba ordered Devon to get the tables, the Dudleys got attacked and it was Raven and Taz who fetched the woodwork. In the end, Taz ended up taking a 3D and the Dudleys won the match. The crowd were a bit upset that no one got put through the wood, so Taz made them happy by putting his own partner through the table. The Taz and Raven relationship is no more. Over before it began, really. The Rock gets interviewed next on Raw while Nitro presents some Backstage Shenanigans, and our Backstage Shenanigans begins with Jimmy Hart once again talking about DJs. Someone called Montana Taylor from Augusta, Georgia has answered Jimmy's challenge, and I don't care. I really do not give a single flying fuck about this. The Boogie Knights, meanwhile, want to make a deal with KroniK. Alex and Disco don't want to compete in the Leathal Lottery because there's a chance they'd have to face Scott Steiner and they'd maybe have to face each other, so they want to sell their spot to Clark and Adams. KroniK, meanwhile, think that the Boogie Knights would have to pay them to take their spot in the Leathal Lottery, and the boys really have no choice. So not only are KroniK now in the tournament, they also made money from the Boogie Knights. That's good business, guys. Take notes. The Filthy Animals saw this business deal going down and they called Ric Flair over to take a look. Rick says he's gonna go and sort this issue out right now, and so he approaches the Boogie Knights and he says he will let KroniK take their spot tonight. Alex and Disco, however, are big stars and they deserve a special surprise. And seeing as it's the Disco Inferno's birthday today, that surprise is going to have to be something extra special. Booker T doesn't care about all this nonsense. He wants some insurance for Mayhem and he wants to win the Leathal Lottery to keep the belt around his shoulder. Booker does not trust his partner Lex Luger, but these two need to get on the same page if they're going to beat KroniK. General Rection says not only is Lance Storm Canadian, he's also a moron. The rest of the MIA talk bad about Lance, with AWOL saying the only people named Lance are sailors and strippers. So tell me, Lances of the world, is this true? The Bottle Dome ball bags show up and T-Money says they flew all the way from America to confront DDP and company. The thing is, you can tell which footage was shot in the UK and which was shot in America due to the change in video quality, and this was definitely shot last week on Nitro. DDP and his band of merry men end up jumping the Bottle Dome boys and Nitro takes a commercial break. Nothing to see here, folks. On Raw, Lowdown and Tiger Ali sing. Yeah, remember that guy? They were getting interviewed by Michael Cole, but as soon as The Rock walked by, Cole ran over to Rocky like a giddy screaming fangirl. Cole informs Rock of tonight's 6-man main event, and Rock says he'll send a message to Rikishi by taking out Benoit and company. It's nearing the holiday season, so Rock wants to hand out a few gifts. Benoit's going to get himself a set of Wolverine testicles. Dean Malenko's going to get 6 inches. No, not like that, you dirty dogs. He's going to give him 6 inches and make Dean a 5'2" champion. Perry Saturn's got 2 messed up eyes, so Rock's going to slap the shit out of Perry and fix those eyeballs. And Eddie's going to get 3 presents: a sombrero, a donkey, and a bottle of tequila so he can ride off into the sunset. Rock's going to deliver a personal gift to Rikishi this week at Survivor Series. These two are going to face each other in a singles match, by the way, and Rock's going to make Rikishi smell what he's cooking at the pay-per-view. Edge and Christian have a battle plan for their 6-man tag match. ANC take out the Hollies, Kurt Angle takes out the Undertaker. Sounds absolutely fair. To ease Kurt's nerves, the boys play Crash Holly's entrance music on their kazoos.
He had a scale, but now he doesn't. Hardcore Holly is his hit cousin.
Guys, please.
That 6-man tag's up next on Raw while the Leathal Lottery continues on Nitro. It's Booker T and Lex Luger versus KroniK. A lot of tag matches this week on both shows, but we'll get through it. Booker does a fantastic job of getting the crowd pumped up before he and Clark go to work, though it's Big Brian doing all the damage in the corner. Book comes back with a spinning back kick and Adams comes in for a Harlem sidekick. Who needs the total package, eh? Flexi Lexi does come in and he immediately finds himself in KroniK's corner. Adams tags in and Lex pulls off 2 clotheslines followed by a suplex, so Lex hasn't learned any new moves since his time away. Brian Adams pulls off his wonky piledriver and it's still the worst piledriver in the history of our great sport. And both guys tag out and we get Booker going back to work on Clark. Clark takes the axe kick and then we get simultaneous knee strikes. Don't think I've ever seen this before. Clark delivers a low blow, the ref lets it slide, and even though Booker was able to fight back, Lex decides to throw his partner out of the ring so he can take over. Lex has no luck at all against KroniK, so Booker comes back in, and our match ends with Scotty Steiner attacking Book from behind with his big lead pipe. KroniK's able to win after the high times. Not a great match, but as mentioned earlier, this audience is going to cheer for anything. KroniK get interviewed backstage and Mean Gene brings up a good point. If KroniK win tonight's tournament, then they're going to have to face each other one-on-one on Thunder. Adam says it doesn't matter because if one guy wins the world title, then both guys win the world title, so that settles that, I guess. Edge and Christian's game plan didn't quite work out on Raw as Hardcore Holly goes after Angle while The Undertaker goes after ANC. Bobby Holly wants revenge for Angle breaking his arm a few months ago and he does quite well in the early going. Enjoy this rub with greatness, Hardcore. It'll be the last one you get for a while. Kurt takes a suplex and a dropkick from Sparky Plug. The Undertaker tags in and Angle runs away. Christian's going to do his best to beat the American Badass down, but yeah, that's not going to work. Kurt won't even stand on the apron as Undertaker deals with both Christian and Edge. Young Crash then tags in and he performs a missile dropkick on Edge. The young Holly cousin then finds himself on the outside where Christian gets in a few cheap shots. And back in the ring, Christian performs a power slam. Crash needs to tag out. The heel team take turns at beating Crash down. Hardcore helps his cousin by stopping a superplex and Crash follows with a diving clothesline. The Undertaker right now looks very eager to tag in. The Deadman does indeed get that tag and so does Kurt Angle. The WWF champion struggles against his upcoming Survivor Series opponent, but when the match breaks down, Kurt does pull off a belly to belly. Kurt then goes for the Olympic Slam, the Undertaker counters, and our match ends with Angle taking a choke slam followed by the last ride. Taker wins via pinfall and you gotta wonder if this is what we're going to see this week at Survivor Series. Stone Cold Steve Austin cuts a promo next on Raw while WCW presents a fatal 4-way. Kevin Nash versus Chuck Palumbo versus Sean O'Haire versus Shawn Stasiak. This might as well be a 3-on-1 match, but I honestly can't get over the fact that Nash has turned babyface once again. Pick a side, mate, Jesus Christ. Nash wants Stasiak, but instead he gets Palumbo. Chuck takes a clothesline and sidewalk slam before getting brought to the corner. We're seeing Kev use up a solid 80% of his offensive arsenal right now, and this doesn't bode well for Big Sexy. Sean O'Haire comes in to break things up and the referee just lets him stay in. It's funny because Slick Johnson tells Shawn to get out of the ring, he then counts Shawn's cover and then he tells him to get out of the ring again. Expect no less from WCW guys. When there's more than 2 people in the ring, a WCW referee's brain just melts. Shawn Stasiak comes in without getting a tag, may I add. Nash gets worked over a bit before Stasiak tags out, and we've now got Palumbo and Stasiak pulling off a double back elbow. In comes O'Haire again for a double shoulder block. Stasiak thinks he's going to get in more easy cheap shots against Big Sexy, but Kev fights back, and all 3 members of the Nitro Born Thrillers get easily taken out. Stasiak gets set up for a jackknife, Reno runs down, and Nash takes him out too. And this is enough for the referee to call the match off, a disqualification in a fatal 4-way match. The other Thrillers come out and they attack Nash. The crowd chant Goldberg's name, but Billy Boy doesn't show up. The beatdown ends with Nash taking a Shanton bomb, and that's how it ends. I've said this before, I do like Kevin Nash, but boy, he didn't do himself any favours in WCW after the NWO disbanded. On Raw, Steve Austin seems a bit low. He seems a bit fed up, and he says he's going to be real careful with the words he uses right now. He has to be careful he doesn't get yanked off the air, so Stone Cold has to think long and hard about what he's going to say. Austin showed up to the arena. He went looking for Triple H, but apparently the game's at home with a back injury. Steve wanted to get Triple H's ass whipping over with tonight on Raw, but now Hunter's going to have to wait until Survivor Series. Triple H said last week that Stone Cold never saw it coming, but Triple H is going to see Austin coming this week in Tampa. Hunter took a year out of Austin's life. The game became the dominant force in the WWF, but Stone Cold will get payback. Running Hunter down in a car would have been too easy. Wrecking Hunter's car with a monster truck would have been too easy. Instead, Austin's going to beat Triple H up in the middle of the ring, and that's all Stone Cold's got to say. The Rattlesnake leaves the arena looking very annoyed, but we will be seeing Austin in our main event later on. Ernest Miller and Elix Skipper had a match next on Nitro, and the Cat told Primetime to, and I quote, bring his Sammy Davis looking junior ass into the ring. The Cat controlled the early portion of the match with a series of kicks. Elix turned it around on the outside, but dirty cheater Ernest Miller got Miss Jones to help him out. The commentators couldn't believe that Miss Jones landed a kick. Back inside the rope, Skipper tried to use his grey cup ring to knock the Cat out, but Miller dodged it. Skipper then pulled off a sweet Matrix counter, but he took a kick to the chin for all his efforts. Miller wins with a feetliner. Let's see what's happening on Raw. And Deborah's only gone and booked another 6-man tag for Raw tonight. That's 3 for those keeping score, and we have only had 1 singles match on Raw so far. Nitro's only had 1 singles match too, by the way, Crowbar versus Big Vito. Anyway, Team X-Treme are taking on the right to Censor. If the Hardys pin Buchanan or Goodfather, they'll become tag team champions. If Lita pins Ivory, then she'll become women's champion. In the way Deborah explains all this is like she's talking to a few school kids. Her delivery is absolutely terrible.
Either Goodfather or Bull, you win your titles back.
So that match is up next on Raw, while over on Nitro, the Boogie Knights come out to get their special surprise. You can guess what it is while we check out the Raw match. All 6 competitors fight at the ringside area, but we settle in the ring with the Goodfather and Jeffrey Hardy. Goodfather was doing just fine until he went for a hold train. Don't think he's hit this move since turning heel, you know. Lita wants a piece of Ivory, and Ivory doesn't back down, though she really should have, because it's all Lita when the ladies get in the ring. Ivory eventually fights back with a clothesline. Lita answers with a reverse DDT. Lita then delivers her moonsault, but the Goodfather breaks the cover. While the ref's busy with the Hardy Boys, Lita takes a Goodfather sidewalk slam. Big bastard Buchanan tags in and he goes after Lita. A low blow fixes that little problem and the match breaks down when Matt gets tagged in. Jeff takes out Goodfather, Lita takes out Ivory, Buchanan takes a diving Hurricane Rana from Lita and a top rope dropkick from Matt, but once again the Goodfather saves the day. He's such a good tag partner that he actually saves the match one final time when Jeff hits a Swanton bomb on Buchanan, and because Goodfather shoved the referee, the match gets thrown out. The Hardy Boys win this one via DQ, no belts change hands. Matt, Jeff and Lita try to get some retribution, but Val Venus comes down to help out his teammates. This leads to the Hardys taking a beating from the right to Censor, and the crowd boo as their heroes get wrecked. So, the Boogie Nights special surprise. If you guessed Ric Flair booked Alex and Disco into a match against Goldberg, then you'd be 100% correct. Any surprise match on Nitro always seems to involve Goldberg these days. The boys wisely run away from Goldberg. They then try to attack at the right time, but Disco gets destroyed by Billy Boy. Alex Wright, however, is a thinking man's wrestler, and he waited until he could land a picture-perfect missile dropkick. Alex attacks in the corner, Goldberg screams like a little girl, the Boogie Knights double-team Goldberg in the opposite corner, and that goof Disco Inferno only goes and gets himself speared. Alex tries a jump kick, but it doesn't quite work out. Das Wunderkind takes a spear too because Alex once again tripped over his own sausage. Both boys take the jackhammer and both boys get covered. This apparently makes Goldberg 18-0. It should be 19-0 because Alex's big bratwurst is the size of a human being. The Radicalz have gotten some food delivered to their room. Eddie says the McMahon-Hemsley family are footing the bill, but Benoit is not in the mood to eat. Instead, he's talking to someone on the phone and he tells whoever he's talking to that everything's under control. Next on Raw, we've got Steve Regal vs Road Dogg. On Nitro, it's Lance Storm vs General Rection. Seeing as the US are having trouble deciding their president, Regal suggests an easy fix. The USA should have a monarchy. The USA needs a king or queen instead of another liar like all the previous presidents. Kinda funny, seeing as the WWF wouldn't stop telling people to vote just a few weeks ago. Here comes Road Dogg, and it sounds like he's got a bad throat.
Oh, you didn't know?
At WWF New York last night, Road Dogg met some dude named K-Kwik. This aired on Heat, and JR's trying to make K-Kwik out to be some sort of famous rapper or popular rapper. Nonetheless, the longevity of R-Truth in pro wrestling really is something to behold. Road Dogg performs a few arm drags as the crowd can be heard chanting "Road Dogg sucks." It's kinda interesting. JR then reveals that 50,000 tickets for WrestleMania 17 have already been sold over the weekend, so fans at home are now starting to understand the scope of Mania 17. It's been a while since the WWF have had a stadium show in the United States, so it's gonna be huge. Regal stretches away at Road Dogg's face. He throws Roddy into the corner for a ton of forearm shots. The DOGG comes back with a dancey punch and a dancey knee. And even though Road Dogg has it all under control, K-Kwik runs down and he hits Regal with a microphone. Not sure if he appeared too early or what's going on, but Road Dogg really didn't need help here. K-Kwik says it's time for Road Dogg to get rowdy and start rapping, and yeah, this is exactly what happens. Road Dogg's now a rapper, and it's a bit weird, isn't it?
You didn't know? You better call somebody. Step through the dust of the mist.
Even Mick Foley and Deborah are having a dance backstage, so it must be good. Anyway, that's the Raw debut of K-Kwik, better known nowadays as R-Truth. This Lance Storm vs General Rection match isn't going to replace their match at Mayhem, rather they're going to do it all over again in 2 weeks' time. Lance wants Rection to leave the MIA in the back because Lance hasn't brought Team Canada out with him, so Rection comes out with Major Bops, which is apparently A-OK with Mr. Storm. I guess she's not a threat. Rection strikes first with a back body drop. The two then share chops in the corner with the General getting the better of this exchange. Lance takes a suplex before getting clotheslined out of the ring, and on the outside, Rection pulls up the protective padding so he can do some real damage to his opponent. Lance avoids disaster by countering a suplex with a DDT. Back in the ring, he performs a springboard dropkick. The two roll around for a bit while trying and failing to lock in submission moves. But when the two get back up, Rection pulls off a power slam, and that's when Team Canada show up. The MIA are quick to follow, and we've got an old-fashioned brawl at the entrance ramp. Back in the ring, Rection has it won when he goes for the no laughing matter. Major Guns helps Lance move out of the way. She passes a roll of quarters to Lance, and the General gets knocked out. It looks like the Major's turning her back and her big bops on the MIA. Lance puts Rection in the Canadian Maple Leaf and Major Guns throws the towel in. This means Lance Storm's our match winner and Lance is once again Canadian champion. Fantastic. Lance Storm leaves with Major Guns. They get interviewed by Mean Gene. Gene says Major Guns has some explaining to do, and she says no. This is all she needs to do right now to answer all questions. Steve Austin says he's got a funny feeling in his gut and something isn't right tonight. After that phone call Chris Benoit had earlier on, I don't blame him for feeling something funny in his belly welly. We cut to Mick Foley and Deborah as they run down the Survivor Series card, but Mick keeps getting distracted by Deborah's, her two big potentials. Kane vs Jericho gets made official here. The pair also book Blackman, Crash and Molly Holly against TNA and Trish. Deborah makes Ivory vs Lita official. It sounds like a decent card. Mick can't stand it anymore, he wants to take a look at the puppies. They're so soft and cuddly and Mick just wants a snuggle. So he grabs those puppies and he has a great old time as we get ready for our main events. Raw presents the Radicalz vs Stone Cold, The Rock, Billy Gunn and Chyna, while Nitro presents KroniK vs Sting and Scott Steiner. Absolutely no way Sting and Steiner are losing this one, but let's entertain it for a moment. Wonky piledriver once again from Brian Adams. Why no one told him to stop doing this is beyond me. The Stinger then takes a big gutbuster, but he comes back with a facebuster and a jumping DDT. Good job, Stinger. Steiner and Clark tag in, Big Papa Pump lights his opponent up in the corner. Clark repays the favour and the big man isn't backing down from Scott, so Scott pulls off a Steiner line and an elbow drop before delivering a belly to belly. You know, we all love Scotty Steiner, but you can always predict what move's coming next. It might be because I watch these matches closely while scripting these videos though. Both members of KroniK get in the ring, so Steiner tags in Sting. Adams and Steiner fight on the outside while Sting performs a Stinger splash on Clark. Clark then gets put in the Scorpion Deathlock. Adams comes in to save his partner, so Steiner tags in and Clark takes a Northern Light suplex before Scott looks for the recliner. Once again, Adams saves his partner and Scott ends up taking a full Nelson slam. This gets followed with KroniK performing the high times. Middasia has to get on the apron to help Scott because Sting's just totally useless right now. But the Stinger remembers he's in a tag match and he manages to counter a meltdown attempt with a Scorpion Death Drop. Sting wins it. He's going to face Steiner this week on Thunder for a title opportunity, and Steiner attacks Sting before Nitro goes off the air. This isn't surprising at all, but what is surprising is Booker T coming out and not only attacking Steiner, but also attacking Sting. Sting takes a chair shot from the WCW champion and Booker's got a mean old look in his eyes before Nitro fades out. So, possible Booker T heel turn? Honestly, I wouldn't be against it. He's kind of floundered over the past month or so yeah, bring it on. The Radicalz make their entrance first on Raw. When it's time for the babyfaces to come out, Billy Gunn enters the arena with his new entrance music. They have gone and replaced the brilliance of Assman with I've Got It All, and this, ladies and gents, is another travesty. Billy's now known as the One Billy Gunn. The whole Billy G thing lasted for a whole week. Billy and Chyna get in the ring a bit too early and the Radicalz have a 4-on-2 advantage, so the crowd naturally pop huge when The Rock and Steve Austin run down to even things up. Every Radical but Saturn gets tossed out of the ring, and this means Perry's going to get his ass kicked by 4 people before the match settles down. Austin stays in the ring, he gets a few knee strikes in before tagging in the One Billy Gunn. Billy pulls off a tilt-a-whirl slam and Perry answers with a T-bone suplex. The Rock comes in and the crowd pop for his Samoan drop. They don't pop for Benoit attacking from the apron. Perry pulls off a nice super kick that floors the People's Champion, and Austin's forced to go after the Radicalz when they attack from the outside. Saturn is seriously earning his paycheck tonight as he keeps Rock at bay in the ring. He finally tags out and he lets Chris Benoit take over for a bit. Rock takes a few hard chops in the corner before Chris tags out again. And yeah, Perry Saturn comes back in. This was maybe a mistake because Rock's able to hit Perry with a rock bottom, but the cover gets broken up. So now we've got Eddie Guerrero in the ring and Chyna wants a piece of Latino heat. So in she comes with a big clothesline followed by a neckbreaker. Chyna pulls off her handspring back elbow, Dean tries a cheap shot, and while it's not successful, Eddie's able to take advantage. Eddie goes in control and he listens to the crowd chant Eddie sucks, and Chyna finds herself in the opposition's corner. Luckily for her, Steve Austin comes to the rescue and the Rattlesnakes are one-man wrecking crew, but we eventually go right back to Chyna being stuck in the Radicalz corner and we're going to build towards a hot tag. As the babyfaces wait for Chyna's break, Saturn pulls off a suplex into a power slam. Dean Malenko comes in to delay the inevitable hot tag a bit longer. Eddie's now in with his apron senton. Someone from the babyface team loudly calls Chyna's next spot, which was a DDT, and yeah, there it is. The match then breaks down when Perry breaks up Chyna's cover. The babyfaces have had enough, they get in the ring and they start taking out Radicalz. Eddie Guerrero and Steve Austin get left inside the ropes, so I'm guessing Chyna tagged out when the camera cut away. Everyone else is brawling on the outside. Benoit and The Rock end up heading up the entrance stage and through the curtain, so I guess they're out of the match. And our main event ends with Austin stomping a mud hole into Eddie Guerrero before Latino Heat takes a Stone Cold Stunner. Austin doesn't celebrate like he usually does. He's waiting to get his hands on Triple H this weekend. The Rock and Benoit, meanwhile, are beating each other up in the backstage area, and while Rock's getting the better of Chris here, it doesn't take long for Benoit to turn it around. They begin heading to the parking area where Rock gets stunned after a few boots from the crippler. Chris then waves at someone before walking off, and a car comes driving down with someone holding a sledgehammer out the passenger side window. It's Rikishi, and the Rock gets whacked before Raw goes off the air. Rikishi gets out of the car, we see that Triple H was behind the wheel, and Rikishi says that's the way it's going to be. The way it's going to be today, and the way it's going to be this Sunday at Survivor Series. I do applaud WCW for doing something different on this evening, and fair play to them for making their first UK Nitro a unique show, but it still wasn't better than Raw. As a go-home show, Raw served its purpose, and the Austin vs Triple H main event looks like it's going to be a very personal match for Stone Cold. And it also looks like The Rock's going to be at a big disadvantage heading into Survivor Series in Tampa. I've seen better Raws for sure, and we didn't really have a standout match this week, but it was still better than Nitro. So Raw's our winner this week, and Raw's now on 155 points, Nitro's on 82, and we've got 24 ties. In the TV ratings, Raw scored a 5.0, Nitro scored a 2.6. Next up, we've got Survivor Series 2000, and as always, early viewing is now available for Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members. Can Stone Cold overcome Triple H, or will the game have something hidden up his sleeve? Kurt Angle defends his WWF title against The Undertaker, The Rock battles Rikishi, and we've got 2 traditional Survivor Series matches to look forward to, if that's your thing. It's the final Survivor Series of Reliving the War, folks, so make sure you come over and join in on the fun. Thank you very much for watching another episode, have a great weekend, and please take care.